Okay, last four problems. I've got 4x cubed y to the negative 6 plus x to the negative 1 y squared to the negative 3. So, first thing I'm going to do for this first fraction, I'm going to think of this over 1 and I'm going to bring the y to the negative 6 to the bottom. So this is going to be 4x cubed over y to the 6th plus. On this one, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to multiply, since I'm raising a power to a power, I'm going to multiply my exponents times that negative 3. So when I do x to the negative 1 times negative 3, that's going to give me x to the positive 3, and y squared to the negative 3 is going to be y to the negative 6. Now, I can, once, just like I did up above, I can think of this y to the negative 6, bring it down to the bottom. So I've got 4x to the third y to the 6th plus x cubed over y to the 6th. Notice I've already got a common denominator, y to the 6th. So 4x cubed plus x cubed over y to the 6th. And now I've got like terms on top. 4x cubed plus an understood 1x cubed is 5x cubed over y to the 6th. Nice. Simplified down nicely there. All right, for number 14, notice I've got x to the negative 2, x to the negative 1. It would be lovely if I could take x to the negative 2 and just move it to the bottom, make it x to the positive 2. But my problem is it's not a factor. I'm not multiplying x to the negative 2 times something. I have a subtraction here. Same thing on the bottom. I have a subtraction. And that's messing me up. Because of that, I can't automatically move things around like I could up above on like number 11. Okay? So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write this with positive exponents. So x to the negative 2 becomes 1 over x squared minus x squared all over 1 over x to the first minus x. This is a complex fraction. This is a complex fraction. So we're going to do the same thing we did with complex fractions back in the last several units. I don't think we messed with it so much with rationals, but polynomials or whenever we did all this, remember to get rid of it. I want to multiply top and bottom by the common denominator. My common denominator is x squared. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by x squared. So two things on top, x squared times this, x squared times this. Two things on bottom, x squared times this, x squared times this. So I'm going to write it all out, show you exactly what's going on here. I've got 1 over x squared. That was my first term. I am multiplying that times x squared that was outside the parentheses, minus. I've got an x squared inside the parentheses times what's outside the parentheses, which is x squared. All over 1 over x inside the parentheses times x squared outside, minus x inside times x squared outside. So let's simplify that. All right, 1 over x squared times x squared. My x squares cancel, and that leaves me 1. Lovely. Okay. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th. 1 over x times x squared. My x down here will cancel with one of the x's and leave me just x minus x cubed. All right, so that's not a bad answer, but I think I can simplify that because I notice difference of two squares on top. The top factors to 1 plus x squared times 1 minus x squared. And on the bottom, I've got a common factor of x, which when I factored that out, I have 1 minus x squared, and my 1 minus x squares are going to cancel, and I have this lovely answer, 1 plus x squared over x. Simplifies so nicely there. All right? Coming down to the end here, two more. So 1 minus x y to the negative 1 over y to the negative 1 minus x to the negative 1. Please realize the negative 1 here on top only applies to the y, it does not apply to the x. So I'm going to rewrite this with positive exponents, just like I did on number 14. So this is 1 minus x over y. The y only goes to the bottom of the fraction there, over 1 over y minus 1 over x. Okay? So what is my common denominator? My common denominator is, I've got a y, I've got a y, I've got an x. It is xy. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by the common denominator xy. Once again, I'm going to distribute this thing to both terms. So on top, I've got 1 inside times xy minus x over y times xy over 1 over y times xy minus 1 over x times xy. If all of your fractions inside your fractions don't cancel out, you've done something wrong, but they should. So I've got 1 times xy is xy minus, on this one, my y's are going to cancel. I've got minus x times x minus x squared here over, once again, my y's are going to cancel, and I've got 1 times x is x minus, and here my x's are going to cancel, and I've got 1 times y is y. So x minus y on top, on the bottom, on the denominator. All right, once again, I think that I can simplify this a little bit. To get an x minus y, I know it's going to have a negative y. So I'm going to factor out a negative x on top. I'll factor out a negative x because I can see I have a common factor of x, but I'm going to factor out a negative x. So if I factor out negative x out of this negative x squared, that'll leave a positive x because negative x times x is negative x squared. And it's going to be minus y because negative x times a negative y gives me that positive xy. The two negatives would cancel and make a positive xy over x minus y. And now my x minus y's cancel. And all this ugly thing that we start with on number 15, the answer is negative x. Okay, here we go. A to the negative 1 plus b to the negative 1 to the negative 1 power. I know this negative 1 outside of the parentheses tells me to take the reciprocal of what's inside, so I need to change what's inside to a single fraction. And right now, those are fractions, but they are separate. They are fractions because a to the negative 1 equals 1 over a, and b to the negative 1 equals 1 over b. So that's what I have. Now I can't just flip each part. What I have to do is make a single fraction and then flip it. So my common denominator, in order to add two fractions, I need a common denominator. That is a times b. What I'm missing from the first fraction in the common denominator is b. I'm going to multiply times b over b. On the numerator, I have b times 1, which is b, plus 1 over b. Here I'm missing, on the second fraction, I am missing an a. So a times 1 is a, plus a times 1 is a. So notice I've got b times a times b, ab. That is my common denominator. I'm still doing all of this to the negative 1 power. The negative 1 power tells me to take the reciprocal. And so once I do that, my final answer is ab over b plus a.